behind you. Yeah.
Here? Here? Closer to the camera.
You're good.
Find that mic.
My kids told me I had to make bullet points because I usually just speak off the cuff, and you're right. I have them. We'll see if I look at them. I look out here, and honestly, I was the one who wanted everybody to have name tags because I was so afraid that I wasn't going to know everybody, or that I wouldn't know everybody's name, but I do. I know everybody in this whole fucking room. It's just extraordinary that we came here and I knew no one. And look, so many people that are here supporting me, supporting Jeff, supporting my family. It's awesome, just incredible. And I appreciate all of you. I appreciate you. People who've come, people I didn't know were coming. One person who came has been in the hospital for 2 years. Where are you? Where are you, Doug? Doug, there you are. It means so much to me that everybody came out for Jeff. I am going to refer to him. You know, one of the things about Jeff is that he has always cared about people. When we came here, his goal was to work with Mark Lockman, was working to do, rural economic development in as far as, finding jobs for people. And then he said, I can open a restaurant, like something I know. And I can employ people and I can give people opportunity. Because I understand how to do that. And that's what he did. And, the first restaurant, and Bob here, Belanoff, he'll be speaking later. He's been with us since we were little babies. And we opened our first restaurant in New York, and it was called Margaritas. And we brought real Mexican food to New York City. And I'm not kidding. We opened it in '81, and they were still thinking chili was beans and hamburger. And we knew nothing. Honestly, I mean, Jeff sort of, investigated and studied and read, but we didn't really know anything about restaurants. And when we opened Margaritas, we had an amazing chef, but she didn't really know anything about Mexican food either. She went on to be a James Beard Award winner, but that first night, we thought it would be a great idea to have free margaritas for 2 nights. You have no idea what it was like. And we opened up and, we'd advertise this, and our margaritas would kill a horse. They were so strong. And we ran out of food at 9 o'clock at night, and our chef was in the kitchen crying. I was downstairs in the basement preparing guacamole to see if that would work. And there was a guy who was at the bar. The people were on the bar, and I swear that if there were chandeliers, they would have been hanging on the chandeliers. But there was this one guy who stood up, and these glasses were big glasses. They weren't little. And he said, "I'm going to eat the glass." And he proceeded to eat the glass. And we did 2 days of that, and that was our first restaurant. And it worked. And the one thing that I wanted, one other little story is that there was a guy, Ernesto, who came from, who knows, he came from, I think, a little town, and he came in and he wanted to be a night porter. And those of you who know Jeff know that he can speak Spanish like a native. And therefore, we had an advantage over everybody because honestly, there's nobody like Mexicans. Nobody. Nobody in the whole world are like Mexicans. They can do everything and they do it perfectly. And Ernesto came in and said he wanted to be a night porter. And he comes in And Jeff said, sure. And he comes in. Well, that night, Ernesto took a bar that was 100 years old with grime and dirt and whatever else was on that bar. It was a beautiful bar, but it was old and it was dirty. When we came in the next day, he had cleaned the entire bar with a knife. And it was like it was brand new. And Jeff walked in and saw this. And he said to Ernesto, you are now in charge of maintenance. You are now the head of maintenance. And he was with us for 18 years. And so was all his family. Jorge, where are you? Jorge, like you. We have family upon family upon family, which is how Jeff's always done it. And in the end, he knew that what made successful restaurant was that the people who work for you trust you, they believe in you, they can count on you, and that the one thing that they have to do is they have to do their best. They have to be the best they could be. And he built family in every location that we ever went to. Ask Dave Herndon. He knows. He was our first bartender before in New York. We went to Columbia Journalism School, and he became a journalist, and I became a barmaid. I'm going on too long, but I'm just going to go on a little bit longer. I'm sorry. He was not a soft man all the time. There's not a partner in this room that hadn't been Jeffed. And when you were Jeffed, you knew it. And you had to be tough enough to take it. You know, I didn't Jeff people, but, you know, I used to talk like this and they'd say, stop yelling. But Jeff was tough because he wanted everybody to be their best. And he pushed them to their best. And he pushed you harder than you thought you could be pushed. And he insisted on it at all levels. He was a crier. He was a laugher. He was an amazing man, and he was mine. He was my partner. Very briefly, I want to describe how he died. Because everybody in this room is going to have to go one day. And he went out the way everybody in this room wants to go out. He not only had his family around him, you know, in the Jewish tradition, you sit Shiva. And that is, after someone dies, people come, they tell stories, they eat cake, lots and lots and lots of cake. And they look at pictures, and they celebrate somebody's life privately in the house. So I really decided that we were going to sit Shiva before he died. And people came and sat with him and held his hand, and rubbed his legs, and kissed him, and told him how much he had meant to them. And in the end, he had his family around him. We were all together. We were all around him. And he died in our arms. There wasn't an hour, not a minute, that he did not have somebody at his side, loving him and caring about him. And I can only say that he had a great life, and I am so proud and so happy that I was his wife. So that's it. John. John is the president of our company, and he is a freaking amazing guy, and I love him like a son.
But I'm not great at speeches. But, and also, I'm like Katie here. Normally I would do this from the, as Jeff would say, the off-the-tookus method, which was just completely ad hoc and unscripted, but I brought this with me today because I felt like maybe this was a little different. First off, I know he's smiling somewhere because he's watching this shy chef that he met from Iowa that was not really much about speaking, standing here in front of everyone, probably the most remarkable group of people ever, talking and having mic problems. But I thought it was important to get up here and just share some thoughts, and I wanted to make sure that I got it right. And I think, still it's funny always giving me opportunities to grow still at this point. And, one of the questions I asked myself, how do you tell people about about this amazing person in a short amount of time? He was an unbelievable man. He was a master of life. And how do you share that in not much time? And you really can't. So I hope everyone has 60 minutes. Get comfortable. I got a lot to say here, but we're going to get it all in. Don't worry. But no, what I really thought about was, let's maybe do this the Paul Harvey way a little bit, and let's tell the rest of the story. Because there's other sides of Jeff that a lot of you didn't see that I got a chance to experience, and I think that this is a great chance to do it. First off, you're probably wondering why there's circus performers here. You've probably never been to a celebration of life with that. If you have, I would love to meet you because you're obviously our kind of people. So please come and introduce yourself. But really, Jeff loved live performances. He always talked about wanting to do them in the restaurants. We never really got a chance to do it. What am I doing here? He never really got a chance to do it, but he always had a couple crazy ideas. And if you knew him, you knew that there were always going to be some crazy ideas, and you never knew what might come up. But one of the things he loved was a restaurant called The Cirque in New York. It's a circus-themed restaurant, and he always thought that we should do something similar to it. You brought it up many times to me, and I just was like, I mean, what do you say to that? But after we went out for dinner with family after he passed, and Suzanne brought up that she knows an acrobat troupe. And what better way to celebrate than that? We finally got to have it. And sometimes it's the things that make no sense that actually make the most sense. And I think as you walked in, you probably wondered why it's there, but I think it made a lot of sense. When you're around someone every day, it's easy to kind of become a little desensitized and accustomed to being around them. You get used to their greatness and you just kind of adopt it as who they are and you appreciate it. But I think, the one thing that I really noticed is just the stories of gratitude are just an incredible reminder of just what an incredible person he was. We've heard so many great things throughout the week. All of us have had so many people reach out to us. He taught us professionalism, taught us business, he taught us leadership, he taught us a lot of other things beyond that. But there's another side of the story, and I think that's why I'm here today, is to kind of touch on some of that. So, I will say it took a long time, but after a while, Jeff got pretty good about not outwardly really second-guessing or disagreeing with me on stuff. He may have done it, but he didn't do it outwardly as much. I'm sure he did it privately to Katie quite a bit. But with Jeff, that was probably the greatest form of flattery because he would always tell you what he was thinking. And if he disagreed with you and he didn't tell you, well, that was a compliment for sure. There were three things that we never really, I would say he always disagreed with me with. It's the paint of the colors in our building, the light fixtures, and in a paternal sort of way, my love interest too. There was only one subject, and it wasn't paint or lighting, that he probably really would let me argue with him on for a while, and still, he was always right. The strongest stance he probably ever took towards me was when we had a discussion about the ceiling color in the Moderno private room. This turned into like a battle royale for 3 days. I went around, I got all of the partners who agree with me that this is the right color. Jeff had his idea of what the right color was. And after about 3 days of this, finally we had a conversation, and he's like, John, I don't tell you what to do with food, don't tell me what to do with colors. And we chose his color. And guess what? He got it right. One time, there was a Friday night when we were at Italian, and early on in the company, And he came up to Austin and I, he's like, I need you guys to come over to the table for a little bit, you know, and this is the middle of Friday night service. And he's like, I need you to come to the table for a minute. So we come over and talk to him. And he's like, I need you guys to put your balls on the table. Right? I'm not joking. He said, I need you guys to put the balls on the table. And Austin and I like pause for a minute, kind of like look at each other with the side eye, like, I'm not going to do that. Are you going to do that? Because like, I'm not sure where to go with this, right? And in a moment we're so grateful for, you know, we waited long enough for him to explain what it actually meant. And that was that he wanted us to be a little more aggressive and more authoritative in the restaurant. There's still to this day, I have no doubt that that would have been our most awkward moment that we ever had in the middle of a Friday night in our restaurant. But, you know, when Jeff asks you to do something, sometimes you just didn't really question it. Yeah. Another one is emails. I don't know, I'm sure many of you got emails from Jeff. I still have several thousand, actually. I do, actually. I saved them all almost, which is going to be fun to go through. And I've started to go through a few of them, but, you know, there were some emails you'd get that would have no body to it. There would just be like 2 words as subject and no explanation. Nobody knew what this really meant. You know, it'd be like pink car, you know. And that was his way of saying, hey, I want to talk about this. I don't want to forget it. I'll reach out to you. In a fun twist, sometimes we would get the whole body in the subject of it. Like a whole paragraph would be the subject and there'd be no body in the email. And then when you was feeling really spicy, we would get an email. And then about a minute later, you'd get a phone call if you didn't answer it, he would leave a voicemail. And then he would text you to let you know that he left you a voicemail. So then you'd go listen to the voicemail and it would say, John, read the email, call me. Right? And this is just how it was sometimes, you know? Yeah. He also loved to send you an email about 5 minutes before a meeting, and something about an important meeting usually, you know, and he'd send it about 5 minutes before, and obviously you're not looking at it before you go into this meeting. So then he would sit down and he'd be like, John, have you read the email? I'd be like, I haven't. Like, I've been sitting here waiting to this meeting. And he would look at you disappointed and shocked that you haven't read this email. And, you know, I think he got really great enjoyment of watching that whole scene unfold when this would happen. And it always made you feel like you just hadn't quite done enough. And that was okay, you know, that was good. But I think, you know, the really amazing thing is that anyone here can probably share a similar story, or many of these same stories. And I think that's, you know, an amazing thing. He left an impression on all of us. And he'll be happy that I'm finishing up this way, I think. As a famous rabbi once wrote, true master of life never leaves this world. I think it's safe to say that with the outpouring of love in the stories here today, he's more alive than ever. Thank you.
All right. Wow, there's a lot of people here, and that means so much. I know my father would have loved to see the outpouring of love for him that there is today. I mean, everyone is here in Hawaiian shirts, and like it's really special. And I know that my father did a lot of things for a lot of people. He was an intense guy, but he was a really loving guy. You know, I think the staff here knows that he's done a lot of things for a lot of them. We had my father always opened his house to so many people that like families, friends. There was always a place in our home for people who needed help. And, you know, I'd like to be able to say that I can embrace that in my life. But my dad is living proof that working towards something you love every day, and being surrounded by inspired and like-minded people, and having a loving marriage can bring great fulfillment to life. When he moved to New Mexico, I think he found the success that he was looking for to create in a community and create a community here that full of support and love. Our father taught us to be really ambitious. He was himself very ambitious. He was always full of ideas. With the restaurants, he just was always creating something, and that's really something that he embraced. But there were, when we were at home with him, all the little moments mattered so much. Whether that was sitting in the living room, taking in sunrise, or eating my mom's red chili burritos that he swore were keeping him alive for 6 years. He just enjoyed every day, and he never stopped loving life. He had that cancer for 6 years, and they gave him 6 months, but I think he started 2 more restaurants after that, and it was in a speakeasy, and it was always about the process of building something for him. Truly, it was just, he loved to do stuff. He couldn't sit still. And if you know my father, I think like at least several people here today have mentioned to me and then spoke about my father cried more than anybody. In fact, my uncle was just referring to how he cried at his grandson's track meet. and it's the truth. When I called him with Laurie and we were getting engaged, he couldn't stop crying, screaming, because it meant the world to him. And my sister's wedding was one of the happiest I'd ever seen. Same at Jesse's, and he just loved his granddaughter so much. But he was always extremely present, and I inherited his crying for sure. But he always wanted to know about everything going on in my life, and I love talking to him over FaceTime. And I can remember all the great conversations we had, and all the great advice he gave me. So I just hope to take this sadness and live my life in a way to honor his, and love my family, my future wife, and have the kindness inside of me that he did as a baby. So.
Mr. Bob Belanoff. Oh, that is hard to talk to. Bob Belanoff.
Oh, wow. I don't know how many people here would know what it's like to have a close friend for 50 years through all kind of lives that you live in a span of 50 years. We met when we were 30, and wives and careers and jobs and all this stuff. And I don't know anything about restaurants. I still don't. So that was not about restaurants, and Jeff doesn't really know much about what I do. Yet I was invited into this family, as so many of you were invited into Jeff's life. It was the same way. Let me just take a couple of minutes. How I got invited was this. Jeff and his brother Art and a bunch of other really smart guys from Yale and Princeton and Harvard started a consulting company in New York. And I was sort of an art guy from a village. And Jeff said, "You're moving in here." Like he said to probably half the people in this room. "You're coming in here." And I said, "But you don't have any room here. You're this big consulting company. I don't know what you guys do. You have briefcases and ties." And he said, "You're putting your desk over here." And I put my desk over there. And in no time, I had a thriving business. And Jeff went on to start his business. It was restaurants, and our lives continued to mingle for 50 years. And I was introduced not only to Jeff, but this whole thing that Jeff had, it is the Spiegelness, I guess I would call it. There were 2 books going around that Madison Avenue office when I moved in, this kind of hippie art guy from the village. And they really personified what Jeff and the Spiegel and what this is all about. One was called In Pursuit of Excellence. Tom Peters was the author. It was a big thing then, consulting. And the other, of course, was Thriving on Chaos. And this kind of defined what the Spiegelness was. Get it clean, get it clear. Is it really clean? I didn't know what clean meant until I worked with the Spiegels. And so at one point in my life, I said, I got to get out of Manhattan. I've been there for 12, 14 years. And I said, where can I go? It's just too much. I'm not a New York guy. And he showed me this spot on a map called Albuquerque, and he said, go there. So I went there. And about 15, we stayed in touch, of course, went back and forth. I started a business here, and I still did his maps books and all the advertising and stuff. And it went back and forth for 15 years. Then he and Katie came here, and the thing just went on. So I didn't grow up in a family where it was really close and intimate and loving, and I'm sorry, but it wasn't. So it was hard for me to latch on and accept the openness, but I did. And I won't say anything more. I could talk for a long time, because 50 years is a long time of different kinds of situations, and you can only imagine the situation. But I made a short film, and because that's what I do, and it's what I could do. And in making the film, I spent time with him and a lot of you, and it was an honor to be able to do it and to be a part of the Spiegelness in the process of doing it. So if it comes through, we'll see.
It's Gilmer.
Have faith.
Oh, I shouldn't hit it again. There we go. This is warm enough.
Lights. You're ready. There we go.
Well, we're just in the front of our new salumini, our new deli, Bertucci's Italian Market and Deli. And we're just $4 down from our restaurant, Bertucci's Cucina. This guy over there, Kevin Kinsley, he's building. He did the same thing at our restaurant last week. This is in the kitchen. We're looking at the kitchen. This is going to be a window that's going to look into our rotisserie. You can see a lot of roasting meats. This is going to be a window that's going to have barrels in it with our olive oil and our vinegar. Feet up here down to inches off the floor. This entire box, which is going to be cool with moving air, what's in it? Is going to be salamis and prosciutto and mortadella and all of the cured meats which we're going to be making.
Oh, our skewers are here.
Gazebo right in the middle of the place, which will have just one The breads we're really proud of. We are of everything. These are artisan bread.
Okay.
They're made in a European tradition using starters.
Nice.
And I don't think that you'll find in this part of the country similar bread.
And this is authentic house. Yeah.
Yes. It's interesting, a lot of people are really, it's surprising where you find kind of fans of artisanal food products. The person who's the head of the department at Santa Fe, which approves liquor licenses, first said, you can't, a deli can't have a beer and wine license, and then I described it to her, and she said, what? In the state of New Mexico, we're going to be making these things? Freezer, it's a refrigerator, and from 9 feet up here down to inches off the floor, this entire box, which is going to be cool with moving air, is going to be salamis and prosciutto and mortadella and all of the cured meats which we're going to be making. So this is effectively our cheese curing room. We're going to make a whole variety of cheeses. A lot of people today in America are making cheese. A lot of people make cured meats. Nobody does it all, and we're going to do it all on an artisanal level.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Oh, my. There's a lot of people in this room. I didn't notice it until right now. So, man, seeing my dad up on that screen was emotional because you know, it makes you realize that we're not going to see him again. So, you know, this has been a hard time for my family, for me. The last few months have been difficult. You know, we've been in survival mode in a lot of ways. Just kind of putting our heads down and doing what had to get done to take care of my dad and support him. And, you know, it didn't leave a lot of time for thinking, you know, or contemplating, you know, what this moment looks like. And then, you know, it became clear that the fight was over, and, you know, that was our reality, that he was, you know, that the fight was over. And, you know, at that point, you start to think about what this means. You know, what does this mean for my family? What does it mean for me? And, you know, as I started thinking about that, you know, I contemplated all that I was going to lose. You know, my dad has been the head of our family, our leader. You know, and with his loss, you know, we lose our primary advisor and counsel. We lose his years of wisdom. We lose his love and his fierceness and his directness. And that's a hard reality. You know, I'm 41 years old. I've got a daughter, a wife, a business, and, you know, by all accounts, I'm a man. And yet, you know, being that I was still his boy, I still felt like a boy. And that's kind of a crazy transition in my life, you know, to feel like I don't have, you know, like, yeah, I don't have a dad anymore. And while that loss is real, you know, I've been pondering, you know, something that I keep getting told by people, which is, you know, that he lives on in us. And I've heard this statement throughout my life, as most of us probably have. And, you know, it's never really landed, you know, it's just something people say, you know, and sounds nice. And, you know, the first time somebody said it to me recently, you know, it kind of landed that same way. But then I started kind of pondering, you know, the meaning and the depth of that statement. A father's responsibility is to prepare his kids for this world, for how to be in this world, how to act in this world, how to thrive and flourish. And you know, for those of you who are in our family, you know that he took that very seriously. You know, he took his familial responsibilities, he took his fatherly responsibilities very seriously. He worked at it, you know, he focused on it, and he excelled at it. You know, over the years I've talked about, you know, how I remember Dad growing up, and I've said it very similarly over and over, which is that he felt totally consistent to me. He felt like he never said or did anything that was inconsistent with the ideals that he wanted to instill in us. And I know that's inaccurate. I know that he wasn't perfect. He had a temper, for instance. But you know, I remember him being pretty damn close to that. And you know, I don't know if I said this already, but I realized looking at that was not just a fluke, you know, that he was that way because he cared and he thought about it and he thought about what his ideals were, what he believed in, and that he wanted us so, you know, that he was so dedicated to us being the best people we could be. He taught me, you know, to believe in myself the way he believed in himself. He taught me to chart my own path, how to plan to reach my goals and then reach my goals. And he taught me, you know, another catchphrase, which is, you know, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. You know, it's about the journey in that, you know, the journey is life, and it is about who you are, how you are during your life and during that journey. And, you know, I think in terms of who you are and how you are, the most important thing that he always instilled in me was, you know, the people in your life, and, you know, taking care of the people in your life. You know, making connections, making bonds. You know, I remember when I was a little kid, you know, him saying, do favors for people, help people when you can, and be somebody that people can rely on. You know, and all the people in this room are a testament to that. You know, friends of his for 50 years and for 10 years. You know, people who worked for him, you know, years ago. All of my friends who are in this room today, because Dad has connected with them over the years. You know, his dedication to people and bonds, you know, is, you know, at his essence. And it is something that, you know, we were taught, and, you know, I think the Matucci's organization as a whole is, you know, in my opinion, his crowning achievement of, you know, an organization that is steeped in Dad's ideals and beliefs, something that he, you know, helped shape with intention, and that, you know, that carries on his spirit, you know. And I think I started this by saying, you know, this idea that Dad lives on in me, and, you know, the realization for me is that Dad does live on in me because I am his son, because he's raised me, and because so much of who I am today, you know, is a reflection of who he was and who he taught me to be. And I think that that goes for a lot of you here, that he has had impact on you, and he lives on in a lot of us. You know, I'll miss him. I love him. he did a great job. He was successful as a father. And, you know, I will carry the lessons on that he taught me and how I love and take care of my family and friends, how I raise my daughter and how she will raise her daughter. And he will live on in me and in the generations. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. We have my Uncle Art, who is one of my dad's best friends, calling in. If the technology continues as it's been, we'll see if it actually happens, but we're gonna give it a try. He's calling in from California, LA, somewhere in California, and he couldn't hear because of health reasons, but he wanted to say a couple words. Uncle Art. Oh my God, it's just like.
Can you see me?
Yes. See your
I
aura.
can see you, but I guess that's all right. Well, as Suzanne said, I can't be there for health reasons, but I definitely am there, and this is just such a wonderful event. Jeff is the best man I know, the best man I ever knew. And there's so much evidence of it. I never knew anybody with so many deep friendships, people from all aspects of his life who tremendously care about him and for whom he cared. That kind of relationships, those kind of relationships, the depth and realness of them is just so unique. I was going to also tell you that every single thing he did in his life was really excellent. He was just terrific, and I was going to inventory what he did in terms of unique impact he had in the Peace Corps, and placing teaching fellows from the U.S. and universities all over Latin America to really improve relationships. And then going in and having a major role in the Little City Hall program in Boston, where he, on the one hand, made sure that underserved communities were getting proper services, and in one case, as he laughingly said, working as a Jew with a black man leader and a priest, preventing blockbusting in another neighborhood. When he came into APM, my consulting company, we were having a terrible time. And I begged him to come in, and he came in, and he took over the first clinic we had, and he built it into a model, a marvelously functioning clinic with great doctors and great service. Just spectacular. And then he taught other people how to do that. And then as we merged into a consulting company, he learned from the MBAs in the program to be a terrific consulting, both in major projects and with his own clients, which he had. And he had a tremendous impact on my ability and our ability to be successful. His charisma and his positiveness really were attractive. I think helped establish the reality of the company and brought it into fruition. I'm not going to go through what he did in the restaurants. You all know. But I do want to say one thing about what you guys have done in Albuquerque. I've been involved in, I don't know, 15, 20, I don't know, different service businesses. And I believe that what you guys have done, what Jeff did, what you guys have done in Albuquerque,
is collect all of the best things about great services company and put them all into effect. You've recruited the best people and kept them happy. You've provided superior service and value to the customers you have. And you've created this amazing culture about do it right and be collaborative and just absolutely a spectacular culture. And I hope you get that book published, and it's going to be not just a book about a great restaurant, but about building a great service organization. And he did that. And then I think you guys have talked about his impact on your family, but he had a tremendous impact on, the relationship he had with Katie. That strong, independent, but everything they did was together, an orientation to building the kind of strong, fine kids that he built and the closeness that he built as a family. And I think I talked already about the fact that he came in when I was in terrible trouble and helped me be successful. His older brother came in and helped his older brother get his life on track by coming in and playing such an instrumental part in the creation of that company. Now, those are all the manifestations of how terrific he was, but what was it that made him the best man I know? I think everybody's talked about his qualities. He thought about what it was all about to be the best man you could be, and then he did it. Rules of behavior. Go see people face to face so they know you're for real and you're honest. Always be honest. Always tell the truth. No matter whether it's painful or not, tell the truth. Help people. Help your friends and help worthy people. If somebody needs help, friends or just worthy people, do it. It's your job. Never quit, never quit, never quit, never don't do your best. Everybody's had stories about that kind of thing, and that's what he was all about. There were also some other qualities that were kind of nifty. I remember when he was born, nobody in our family ever hugged, and when Jeff was born, all of a sudden we hugged because he was so lovable and likable. And also he was really adventurous. And, I remember picking him up at camp. I think he was 10, I was 17, or he was 11. And when I went up to camp to pick him up, he was over at the girls' camp. I had to wait for him. I can't even tell you that's what was going on there. But on the way down, we were driving past a big, wild river, what looked like just the scariest river, and he got me to stop, and he said it would be so much fun diving into that river and floating downstream. Now it looked to me like we were going to go crashing downstream, but he talked me into it, and he dove in, and he was laughing, and we didn't hit any boulders and smash our heads, and he came out laughing. He was adventurous. He did stuff. And then he represented all those characteristics. I was thinking about all the things that were so spectacular about him, and for the last bunch of years, he was always this just loyal, wonderful brother. For the last bunch of years, I got a chance to talk to him every day. And we had fun together, we talked about stuff we were doing, we reacted to one another, and we talked about how we felt about one another, especially, and over the last 2 weeks, that was even more intense. And I've been thinking about what I was going to say to you. Katie told me I had 2 minutes, and I know I went over that. And I realized, as several of you said, that Jeff and all those memories are going to live on and make me a better person. And as I was thinking about that, sitting in the car waiting for Pollock to come out of the store, I also realized that all that daily conversation I had with him is over. And I started to cry because I will miss him so much. I will miss that interaction that I had. And it means so much to me. So on the one hand, I think as Jesse said, he will live on in me and my memories of him and his positive influence on me, but I also will miss him terribly, as will we all. Thanks.
Thank you, Uncle Art. Hi, everybody. I'm Suzanne Spiegel, Jeff Spiegel's daughter. I know a lot of you. I was just laughing to myself because this ceremony has become kind of long. And this is the reputation of my family. We all want to speak. At every dinner, there's toasts, one after the other. And my dad had a reputation of needing to have the mic ripped out of his hand, actually, at all of the events that were significant to me. And sometimes the events that were not significant to me, like my ex-boyfriend's wedding, where he spontaneously decided that he was going to give a speech, followed by my mom and Jesse on my 30th birthday. It was excruciating. My family is a little crazy in certain ways, but the intensity of what we are, it also manifests through a lot of love, and a lot of love that emanates outward. And I think just from seeing the way that my dad went, that was felt by so many of you, just the intensity of that love. And my dad taught me so many different things. One of the things that I remember him teaching me was how to speak publicly. At my bat mitzvah, he taught me how to breathe. Breathe out, push your belly out when you're scared. And that always stuck with me. But he also taught me some really important things that will always shape who I am. And I think the most important thing that he taught me is just how lovable and how worthy I am. And his belief in me made me believe in myself and made me love myself and made me choose an amazing man, my husband, Evan Kinsley, who he also loved like a son. And I think that was something that my dad did for a lot of people. He really saw the best in people, and it was his greatest joy to cultivate that, to help you cultivate that and to see that growth in you. And I can't tell you how many times, like, mom and dad would just be going on and on about, their latest project, and not the project of the restaurants, but I mean the people, like just talking to us with this glimmer of pride about, the people that they love. And we knew so much about all of you because they talked about you with such heartfelt pride and connection. And, sometimes it was like on repeat, like, yeah, we've heard this one. And, I don't want to be redundant, but it was so core to my dad was that he was a mentor to us. We called him for everything. I mean, things that grown adults probably don't call their dad about anymore. We all did, and he always answered. Whether it was how to cook something in the way that he would cook it, or write a business plan, or stand up to somebody who was being an ass that needed to be cut down. He would help you do that too. And, my dad was confrontational, and my whole family's confrontational. He taught us how to do conflict and how not to shy away from hard conversations. And because of that, we have this deep intimacy in our family because we just talk about everything. And I've had a few of those conversations with my dad over the years. When he's being an asshole, it was always my job. Everyone in the family was like, Suzanne, you got to talk to Dad. I was his little girl. And so I would talk to him, and he would start out
a little prickly and defensive, but he always came around because he always prioritized closeness. He always prioritized his family and his loved ones, and he would always come back and apologize, and we would rekindle, and we would be closer. And I'm gonna miss him so much, and I'm gonna miss his support, and I'm gonna miss seeing myself through his eyes. But like everybody has said, now he's planted all these things in me, and I know that they're gonna be in me forever, and I can tune in and know what he would say, and know what he would tell me, and walk the path that my dad taught me. And I will, Dad. I'm gonna live on through your legacy, and I love you so much if you're here and listening. I'm gonna be back. Actually, I'm gonna hand off the mic for just a minute. I know it's still going. But I'm gonna close this out with just a minute of silence together. And I'm just gonna welcome briefly, we have the Mayor, Tim Keller, who wants to just honor my dad briefly wherever he is. Is he here? Tim Keller, thank you for being here. Come on up. Oh, and Liz, who my dad's mother.
Liz,
Thank you guys so much. So just really quickly, I was fortunate to first meet Katie and Jeff. We were about 5 minutes into opening the Obama campaign office in the town of Bernalillo. And Katie stormed through the door with Jeff in tow and said, let's fucking go. What do you need us to do? I won't make phone calls, but I will do anything else you do. And we will do it more, and we will do it better than anyone has ever done it. And in true form, then Katie and Jeff sent out to door knocking every single day and doing what they always do, as we've heard today, which is building community. Every single walk they went on, they had new volunteers that were coming into the office because they cared about what we were doing, but mostly because after 30 seconds on their front porch, they cared about Katie and Jeff. And so we have been thrilled over the last 15 years to see the same energy that they brought to that endeavor and the vision and the love of community to so many other things that all of you are a part of. And the same energy to door knocking as they bring to spirited emails about which parking ordinances should or should not be enforced, about the very exciting things that are happening all over the country and all over the world, but more importantly, the really exciting things that are happening here. So we just wanted to honor that service, the love of community, with a proclamation from the city.
Thank you.
Well, we were laughing in the back a little bit because Joni suggested that maybe this might be a small thing we could do. And we were laughing because I don't know if Jeff would really like a proclamation. Just the irony of it is really great, actually. So, but we want to honor him, I think, in a couple of ways because look at this. Well, first off, I do want to acknowledge just that I love the Being Jeff story. So I'm proud to have been part of that on a number of fronts. And so, if you run a bunch of restaurants in Albuquerque, you're going to have to call the mayor and city council like a few times here and there. And I remember we told him that he could do whatever he wanted during COVID, as long as it was outside. And like a day later, he had tents everywhere, and it was awesome. And the fire marshal was going crazy because the tents were going to be lit on fire by the heaters and all this stuff. And he was like, well, you said I could do whatever I want. And, I was like, well, we're under an emergency order, so actually you can. So anyway, so many experiences, but also we wanted just to touch on when you run this many restaurants and hire this many people in a city like ours, you also are a part of that Albuquerque community. And we understand that. Everyone here certainly has a personal connection. But it's not lost on anyone, right? Every single person who comes in any of these restaurants also feels some of that personal connection. So this is truly an occasion, I think, also for the city of Albuquerque. And so what we would like to do is honor Jeff's memory with an executive order, and I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit, and then we'll give it to you. But it speaks to also how good he was to employees. And I remember when we were arguing over different employee rights legislation at the city and the state, I would always ask, Matucci's was always already doing them. And it was so great because, sometimes you're like, well, you can't do that, we have to close. You'd be like, well, there's a lot of restaurants that actually do it just fine, and here's one. And wonderfully, Jeff would always be there to defend a lot of this too. But these things have a little bit of a formal language, but they go like this. Whereas the city of Albuquerque mourns the loss of Jeff Spiegel, a revered figure, an esteemed entrepreneur, whose indelible mark on our community shall be forever cherished. Jeff Spiegel, the founder of Matucci's restaurant, was also renowned not just for exceptional cuisine served at his establishments, but also for his equally exceptional treatment of his employees, exemplified by the introduction of comprehensive healthcare benefits, of educational support programs for their families, and also transforming in many ways the local landscape of restaurant management, pioneering innovative ideas such as the 4-day work week for managers and fostering a workplace of respect and longevity, resulting in a remarkable 50% reduction in turnover rates. Born and raised in Albuquerque, Jeff's journey from the East Coast back to his hometown exemplifies his enduring love for this city and a dedication to his community. The city of Albuquerque honors his life, his legacy, and the contributions of him and his family. And we express our profound gratitude for his immeasurable impact on our community. Now, therefore, I, Tim Keller, Mayor of the City of Albuquerque, do hereby proclaim February 25th, 2024 in honor of Mr. Jeff Spiegel.
Okay, guys, I promise we're closing. So just one thing I do want to mention is that you may have noticed that there's cards all around the room about my dad's final vision, which was the Matutoring program. It's a program that offers educational services to all of the 350 employees' kids if they're having any issues in school. There's extra help, tutoring that's available for them. And in fact, in the last week that he was alive, Howie Kaibal, who's now taken the reins on this program, came over to give his love to my dad, but also to give him an update on Matutoring. And as he was weak, he was hardly speaking, and when Howie told him about it, it brought him to tears, and it was the only thing he talked about for the rest of the day. So even as he was dying, he really cared about spreading his impact. So if you want to honor him, please don't give us gifts, flowers, food. We've got all that we need. Just you can make a donation to Matutoring. I want to close the ceremony today with Dad. I believe that we're more than our physical bodies. I'm an acupuncturist, so I work with energy. So I see every day like how we can put energy into one part of the system and it affects the whole system. And well, why if my leg hurts would you put it in my hand? Because it's all connected. And another thing that I learned from masters of acupuncture is that after technique, so the most important thing you can do is get your technique right. You got to know the diagnosis and do the needling right and all that. Second most important thing is bringing the right clear intention to the room. So what I'd like to do is that we have a lot of us here that love my dad, and I want us to take a minute to connect in our hearts and to send his spirit, which I believe is beyond his body now, to send his spirit some love, to wish his spirit the most peaceful, safest journey, and to just send to him whatever you wish for him to have in this transition. And if we do it together, as however many people we are, I think that there's just more of an impact. So you can close your eyes if you want. You can do it in any way that feels true. It's not religious. It's just a way for you to connect. Thank you.
We're gonna close this out with a toast. So, yeah, that's the final step. Thank you guys so much for being here today. We love you all.
Those of you who knew Jeff knew he had a great sense of humor and had a lot of funny sayings. So I just put together a few of them in a little toast to commemorate. So please, raise your glass of beer, wine, or liquor. Liquor? I hardly know us. Was one of his favorite things to say. His quips and phrases will be quoted nearly every day. If he liked you, you were not bad. If he free-handed food off your plate, you knew him like a dad. We all learned many lessons from this wise guy. Every single one was better than a sharp stick in the eye. In your memory, the Choo-Choos will live on. Cheers to Joseph Jeff Spiegel, the icon.
Cheers to the wonderful life of Jeff Spiegel.
your hearts out. Thank you for coming.